time to dive beneath the surface and into the minds and hearts of your favorite celebrities and pop culture icons. Welcome to Up and Adam.
Hi, guys, and welcome back. I feel like we literally just did this, and that's probably because we did. Guys, hi, welcome back. We are here to recap the Real Housewives of New Jersey, and this has already been a season, I'm not going to lie. Guys, this episode really peeved me, kind of ticked me off, and we're going to jump into that, but I felt a little bamboozled, misled, not really told the full truth, I guess, in the super trailer. Again, guys, we'll get to that, but if you haven't already, go ahead, hit that like button, show some love. I'm going to drop the call-in link for you guys. If you do want to call in, you're more than welcome to join me in this recap, and if you don't, you're more than welcome to just hit the like button and show some love, okay? So, guys, we end up getting to breakfast, and at breakfast the next morning, while the women are away on their girls' trip, at breakfast, mind you, they talk about how great dinner was the night before. Right? So Melissa ended up making up with Jennifer Aydin, and that was sort of a breakthrough, especially since they haven't been on good terms ever since the reunion. Jennifer Aydin likes to point out the fact that she feels like Melissa is very self-involved, self-centered. She's all about herself. And for Melissa, she's like, look, I have 3 kids. I have a husband. I have a career. What are you talking about? Now that they finally agreed to move forward and make amends, it seems like we might be getting somewhere. However, there is one housewife that is not looking to make amends with anyone. That would be Teresa Giudice. Teresa came to breakfast the next morning, and she was talking about how, hey, listen, guys, I listened to you guys. I listened to Gia. I listened to what everybody was saying about me possibly calling Jackie and offering her an apology. And I'm not going to do it. In true Teresa Giudice fashion, she says, no freaking way. I'm not going to sit here and offer an apology when I didn't do anything wrong. Teresa is saying to this day, she feels like I did nothing wrong. I didn't start the rumor. I didn't spread the rumor. I shared the rumor with a couple close friends and my family at Jackie's husband's party. Okay, Teresa, there's so much that is already wrong with that statement. Okay, moving forward, she said that she feels like she technically apologized to Jackie. Thinking back to when she was in the conversation with Jackie sitting on the couch, she said, no, I apologize. So now she owes me an apology for what she said about my daughter. I have to say, though, I know that some of the housewives have like a real rule, and the rule like Karen Huger. Karen Huger refuses to drink excessively around the rest of the women on the Real Housewives of Potomac because she wants to remember every single little thing that was said while filming. She wants to know what was said, what she said, what situation she was in, and how to, I guess, be prepared for the next moment that she's in a situation. Anyways, okay, moving forward. I got a little lost in that for a second. But for Teresa to be on the couch and remember what she said in this height of the moment, in this sort of confrontational back and forth with Jackie, I think it's pretty impressive. Unless the producers feed that to her, then okay, maybe not as impressive. Again, just going forward, though, I felt like Teresa, she's hard-headed, she's tough, she doesn't feel like she did anything wrong, and she knows how to secure her spot on the Real Housewives of New Jersey. She's not going to apologize for something when she knows this is her main storyline this season, especially when she doesn't want to talk about her relationship or lack thereof at the moment on this show. And she doesn't want to talk about her kids. She doesn't want to talk about Joe Giudice moving back to Italy. She's had enough of the flack on her. I even think Emily D. Baker came on and recapped the Real Housewives of New Jersey with me, and she said that. She's like, at this point, I feel like Teresa has had so much attention on her for so long that now she's going to turn it around and put it on somebody that she doesn't like. And remember, mind you, Jackie Goldschneider did last year not put the rumors of Teresa running around with a 20-something-year-old in Miami to bed. She said where there's smoke, there's fire. So she didn't say that it was a rumor, and she kind of alluded to the fact that there might be something true about it. Dolores did make a point, though, too. Dolores said that Jackie has been upset over less, and at this point, she feels like Jackie is just one of those women who she's too emotional. She gets too emotional over everything. And for Dolores, she's like, Dolores is kind of a tough guy. She's like, I can't be around someone who reacts the way that Jackie does and who gets so overly emotional over what? What is she emotional about? Right? Okay. Well, we're going to have to wait and see how this plays out. Moving on. Again, guys, if you haven't already, go ahead, hit that like button. Queen Bee said, yay, finally able to catch a live. Braun, Teresa is just trying too hard. Kimberly, yeah, but she did something wrong. The other ladies need to hold their accountable and stop kissing her behind. I feel like everybody kisses her behind, though, because they know how to stay on the show. Guys, I dropped the link if you want to go ahead and call in. You're more than welcome to join me on this. If not, let's keep it going. So they end up going to the lake, going to Lake George. They're going on a boat. This is sort of a booze cruise, but kind of like a tiki booze cruise. Before they do, Jennifer Aydin brings up the point of being gorgified. I didn't even know there was a verb to this, but if you guys have watched The Real Housewives of New Jersey in the previous seasons, Joe Gorga is a drunk, sloppy mess when he's drinking. Hilarious, but he's a sloppy mess. There's ample footage of him falling over, falling to the side, running into glass windows. Like, the guy does it all because he takes it to the next level. And when he gets all of the other house husbands around him, he brings them in and he's like, all right, it's time to get gorgified. When they went back and panned back to the clip of all of the guys carrying in Bill Aydin, and Jennifer's like, what did you do to my husband? I was like, oh man, dude, there's no way in HELL that I would ever last with this guy going to a bar. No freaking way. But Frank's been gorgified. Margaret Joseph's Joe has been gorgified. Bill Aydin's been gorgified. The point is, it's a thing. I do want to talk about this too, though. Since we're on the topic of Joey Gorga, there is a new girl in tow on The Real Housewives. Her name is Michelle Paez, and she is the realtor for Teresa Giudice. Teresa's selling her home. Well, she already sold it in real time, technically, but she's selling her home and she's using Michelle to do so. The interesting thing here is Michelle at Jackie's party, while Teresa's spreading her gossip, Michelle's over here talking to Jennifer Aydin, telling her that she knows Melissa and Joe Gorga, that Joe Gorga did some work with Michelle's husband and that he owes Michelle's husband tens of thousands of dollars. Jennifer was like, what? Tens of thousands? Guys, that's not saying 5,000, not even saying 10,000. She's saying tens of thousands of dollars. That's a lot of money, especially when your wife is running around here in Chanel with Birkins and you guys are living in a $3 million mansion. You have a wine cellar that's bigger than my condo. Like, you know what I mean? They spend a lot of money. So if this is true, this would be a problem. But Michelle seems like she was a little bit coached here. She came in definitely as a friend of the show in some capacity. We still don't even know yet. She's been mentioned a few times and she's been shown a little bit, but she's obviously not a full-time housewife. But she seems like she's been coached. Teresa came in hot that night, and it kind of seems like she put a bug in Michelle's ear and was like, hey, listen, you want to be on the show? You want to be a part of this? You got to jump in there, and you got to say whatever it is that you know. You just have to throw it out there. What's kind of sick about this, though, is if Teresa Giudice actually knew that Michelle was coming to talk about her brother Joe Gorga and about his business, and she still pushed her to do that, that would be almost like a sick joke. However, we have seen in the past where Teresa asked Danielle Staub, well, not asked her, but she told her to go up to Margaret and pull her hair. We did see in this episode where she sort of orchestrates Dolores to get up and start running from the campfire. So they all start running. We did see in this episode where she jumped on the phone with Joe Gorga while they were on the boat at Lake George, and she is going off on this tangent about Melissa Gorga allegedly cheating, which we know now was a joke, which is why I feel bamboozled in the first place. But hold on, we'll get there. My point is Teresa loves to put on a producer cap. She knows what she's doing. She jumps right into it, and she completely just sets up situations that benefit her in the long run in order for her to maintain her position on The Real Housewives of New Jersey. Holy cow. That was a mouthful. Guys, that was a mouthful. Somebody just said, Don Hall, speak on it, Adam. Oh my gosh. Like, I feel like that just rolled off the tongue and I feel better, kind of. Honestly, I do. Again, guys, if you haven't already, go ahead, hit that like button, show some love, but we're not done yet. Melissa talks about her 15-year-old daughter's boyfriend. Ooh, this was kind of strange, but okay. Melissa talks about her 15-year-old daughter's boyfriend and the fact that they've been together since middle school, I guess. She talks about the boyfriend and talks about how Melania told her, you know, Zia Zia Melissa, I just want to let you know that this guy, Zach, is a nice guy. Like, he's not even pressuring your daughter to have sex. Like, most people our age, that's what they do. What? What is happening in Jersey? What are you talking about? Most people your age, this is what you guys are like 12, 13, 14, and 15. Did I miss something? Did I go to a school in a completely different time? I'm in my 20s, but I just don't remember it being like that. I remember, listen, the latter end of high school, okay, things get a little bit funny. And sure, sometimes in middle school, but what, everybody's doing it now. I just thought technology had these kids preoccupied. I guess not. I guess that's not the case. I didn't, well, I don't know. We'll have to see how that plays out. But I don't think that Joey Gorga is probably going to like the fact that that was a topic of conversation, but we'll keep it moving. Teresa tells a story in this episode, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit. Teresa tells a story in this episode how one time she went out and she was just going out and about and she runs into her brother. Her brother was having a boys' night and asked if Teresa wanted to join them. They end up all going to the strip club, but Teresa pointed out it's like Melissa has a tracker on her husband because the minute that they walked into the strip club, boom, the phone is ringing off the hook and Melissa's like, "Where are you?" He's like, well, I'm with my sister. Yeah, but where? He's like, "Oh, well, you're going to just talk to Teresa," and trying to pawn it off on Teresa, which is totally a gimmicky move because don't be a coward. I was going to use a different word. Don't be a coward if you're going to go to the strip club. You got to tell your wife about it. But in Joe Gorga's eyes, he's like, "Hey, listen, I have this $3 million home that my wife's living in. Shut up." He has that kind of old school Italian way where he's like, "I provide, I do this." You kind of take a step back, but he is still respectful. He doesn't cross it all the way over. I do want to point that out. Dolores did come up with a plan, though, on this little booze cruise tiki hut thing that they're taking out on Lake George, and it was to get back at Joe. Dolores said, "Hey, Teresa, why don't you message Joe and say that Melissa has been talking to some guy, one of the owners from the restaurant last night?" Okay, so she does. She starts getting into it, texting him, and it almost came so second nature for her to stir the pot that it was a little disturbing. All of the other women noticed it too, but the minute that she got started, she couldn't stop. She ends up giving him a call. She calls Joe. He has the kids in the car, and she's telling him all about how Melissa was flirting, how she was acting, that they walked off alone together, that she's been on her phone all day. And the way she's talking about Melissa even has Melissa's jaw drop down to the ground over here. Melissa's like, "Is that what you think about me?" Because she's like, "Oh, you know Melissa." She's walking around. She's like, "Oh, I'm Melissa." And kind of made her sound like a bimbo. Joe starts talking in Italian because he has the kids in the car and he didn't want them to know what was going on, but it seemed like he started to buy it for a second. Melissa did point out, and I'm sure she knows her husband better than any of us, the fact that he actually believed it was when he did step into speaking Italian, when he was like, "Hold on, switch, let's talk about this." That way he knew that the cameras weren't going to pick up on it and that his kids wouldn't pick up on it. But mind you, if the cameras did pick up on it, they would just translate it anyways. Jennifer did make a point, though, when they were pulling this prank, and her point was valid. She's like, "Wait a minute, guys, we're going to do this prank right now." And isn't that the exact reason, the same very reason that Jackie Goldschneider is not here with us on this trip was because there was a alleged cheating rumor that was going on, and this started this whole uproar, and that's why we're fighting in the first place? Yeah, well, that actually makes sense, right? Jennifer Aiden is finally onto something, but it's probably because she's not too boozed out yet to be, well, out of it, because that's kind of usually where she goes. Again, guys, I'm going to go ahead and drop the link and start taking callers here in a minute. Go ahead, hit the like button if you haven't already. I just want to get through to the kind of sort of end of this episode. But yeah, I appreciate you guys being in here. Hold on, I want to see what you guys are saying really quick. Adam, there were freshmen in my high school starting out school pregnant. See, what is going on? I've seen it, 16 and pregnant. One of my good friends was on the show. Gia is not a child. She's an adult and part of the show. And Jackie's children are small. That's fair. Yes, shows how good of a liar she is talking about Teresa. Okay. Going back into the episode, they had a Gorga guy night. I don't know if you guys have watched the Housewives in the past or the Jersey Housewives, but it seems like Real Housewives of New Jersey is probably one of the only franchises for the Housewives, maybe even a little bit of Atlanta, that actually have the guys constantly getting together on their own. Not just meeting up because the the wives are meeting up, but they actually have these sort of little guy nights. And I find them to be kind of interesting. Watching the Gorga guy night, they all start talking about Evan because Evan couldn't make it because he was too busy. Now, mind you, was Evan too busy? I'm not quite sure. I don't actually believe that he was too busy. I feel like he didn't want to go and show up to anything filming and have the guys ask him about what's going on with this alleged cheating rumor. But the alleged cheating rumor comes up anyways. Everyone at the table is in agreement that they feel like they're men's men and that Evan's a man's man, except for Margaret Joseph's Joe. Frank feels like, hey, listen, every time I've seen Evan, I've never seen him to be a cheater. I don't think he's cheating. You know, Bill Aiden said the same thing. He's like, I think he's a stand-up guy. Joey Gorga said, I'm going to stand with my man, Evan. But Margaret's Joe said, listen, I have over 10 girls in my house at all times, and they're all from the area, and I hear things. And I've heard things about Evan before. Joe's looking at him like, man, what are you doing? You're going against bro code. And he's like, well, listen. I've heard things. So do I think that Evans cheated? I don't know. I'm going to say 99.9% no. Okay. Well, you obviously know by leaving that window open that everyone's going to start alluding to the fact that he probably was cheating because Margaret lives in the same town that Jackie does. We learned that in the first episode. So what are you doing here, Joe? Evan's a big guy. I don't know if you want to go up against Evan. But he still said it. And after he said it, once you put it out there, you can't really take it back. It was kind of like a semi-confirmation. Melissa and Marge, though, speaking of Evan and Jackie, Melissa and Marge, they go outside and they call Jackie. This is where the episode sort of takes a turn for the worst for just a minute. When Melissa and Marge call Jackie, they tell her that they miss her. And she said, you know, I didn't come because I had to make the right decision for my family. I didn't want to show up there and have all of these problems and really not stand by my family after Teresa put out this baseless rumor. Okay. She said on the phone until Teresa picks up the phone and calls her husband, Evan, who is furious. He's infuriated, cannot believe that she even started this rumor. Until Teresa picks up that phone, calls Evan and apologizes and says, there's no truth to this rumor. He's not going to be okay with it. And he's not going to be okay with Jackie being around them. However, Teresa is in no mind to do that, especially after Jackie brought up Gia Giudice. That you can't talk about the kids. Even though you guys are saying in the chat, Gia Giudice is not a kid. She's an adult now and she's a part of the show. We don't know that. We don't know what her contract looks like. We know that she's an adult, but at the end of the day, she's still Teresa Giudice's little baby. And Gia has been through a lot. So I'm sure she's not going to, well, Teresa's not going to let people throw mud on Gia's name and especially link her name to some sort of drug scandal. Even though it was an analogy, Gia's trying to go to school and make something of her life. So I don't think that this was, I mean, it's just not going to be excusable on Teresa's end. They're both wrong. They're both very wrong. They both mentioned each other's family and had no basis behind it. I know Jackie was trying to make an example, but at the end of the day, family is everything to Teresa. So, you know, again, it's not going to jive well. Teresa did say at the table, though, when they got back, when Melissa and Jackie, well, not Melissa and Jackie, Melissa and Margaret walked back to the table, Teresa said, where were you guys? They said, we were sitting there talking to Jackie. She's like, again with Jackie. And they're like, well, why don't you just apologize? What would it take for you to pick up the phone? She said, I'm not apologizing. I didn't start the rumor. I'm not apologizing. I just repeated the rumor. Jennifer says it's pretty much the same thing. Melissa thinks it's the same thing. Margaret says it's the same thing. And the only one who's really there truly over it would be Dolores. Dolores feels like it's kind of inappropriate for Teresa to even have a conversation with Evan. And she's so sick of hearing about Jackie and this whole situation at this point. She feels like it's beyond and it's ruining their trip, right? Well, after talking with Teresa and finding out that no, she's not going to apologize, and yes, she still wants an apology about Gia, we learned that this is it. This is kind of the end of the road for this friendship, unless someone budges. Teresa feels like everyone is against her and wants her to really open up and make that move so everybody can come back together, and she snaps. She gets up, tells everybody to go F themselves, and walks away. Walks away from the table, locks herself in the room, has a little self-pity party for 60 seconds until Melissa Gorga ruins it. When they all went into the room and just explained to Teresa, listen, it's not we're all going down your throat. We're all coming in and trying to attack you. That's not what we're here to do. If Jackie was here, she would feel the same way. We're just trying to explain to you this is how we feel, and we're sick of talking about it. They all pretty much agree. We're sick of talking about it. Finally, they end up all going outside to another campfire setting, which seemed pretty familiar because we just watched that on The Real Housewives of Dallas, to do s'mores. I think it seemed familiar with the camping situation and a few other things from some of the other franchises, only because they filmed during COVID and there's technically only so much that you can actually do. I think that's why it seemed familiar, but nonetheless, it did seem familiar. When they're doing s'mores, whatever, they're trying to scare each other. They think that they hear a badger. That's how they say it. Jennifer Aiden says, I think I heard a badger. And Teresa runs off. Again, when I said Teresa likes to play producer, I think that. I feel like she likes to push the women in certain moments to do things like, hey, Dolores, let's run off and scare everybody. Or, hey, Danielle, pull Margaret's hair. Or, hey, Jennifer Aiden, bring up this about Jackie's husband, which Jennifer had the opportunity to do, and she did not. She likes to play producer. I think that's one of the reasons that she's an asset to the Real Housewives of New Jersey. That's probably why production likes dealing with her. And it's probably why Bravo has continued to renew her contract year after year after year. She's just good at what she does. For example, I know we're starting to see it more, but somebody who doesn't look as good with the pre-produced stuff would be like Melissa Gorga. And this very same episode, she takes off running with the rest of the women, and she looks back and she goes, ah! She knows the cameramen are standing there. They're filming. Nobody else is running. And when she looks back, she throws her glass, it breaks, and it gives us that cinematic effect, right? It felt pre-produced. I know that sounds silly, but that's how it felt. You can't take it away, That's what we watched, and that's how I digested it. I am curious, though, what you guys think. If you haven't, go ahead and start commenting in the chat below. But yeah, this episode wasn't too totally terrible. My words are all... I've had a crazy morning, guys, by the way. I'm like in limbo right now, and I'm talking backwards. If you guys are only here this morning, it was just nuts. But I appreciate you guys joining me. Next week, we will have a guest. We're going to have Emily D. Baker back with us next week. Today, we asked Emily, but Emily was super busy. And then Monica from All About the Tea was going to jump on with us, but then something came up for her too. So things just come up. And with that, the show must go on. So that's what we're here to do. And I appreciate you guys joining me. Again, if you guys haven't, go ahead and hit that like button, show some love, and we'll see you guys next time. Tomorrow's going to be a really busy day. I think we're going to be doing Summer House. We're going to do Pops Off. And today, I'm dropping a video about Jen Shah and her leaked audio tapes. And we heard from an insider, this is actually true. And I don't say things on here unless they are true, that some brand partnerships might be dropping Jen because of this leaked audio file. So I'm going to be dropping that video in the next 30 minutes. Keep an eye out. See you guys next time. Bye, guys. Bye.